Gonna quote my brother, HTO. You see the glow, you can get it too. I love HTO, man. The dude has like a grand fucking style. It's just fantastic. That dude inspired me, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. That dude, one of his videos inspired me to go on this semen retention journey. So I give my utmost thanks and appreciation to the dude. He really did inspire me to set me on my own path. But what am I going to talk about today? Good old Johnny Boy is going to talk about the shadow that's in my face. Yeah, I probably should make that a topic, shouldn't I? Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, saying the Lord's name in vain. Excellent. NoFap is an excellent opportunity to develop a healthy ego. Okay? Now, I'm going to try and make this video as short as I possibly can. Not only because I don't want to waste people's time with endless rambling. Mind you, a lot of what I have to say has infinite wisdom and knowledge within. You just have to sift through the filler. I like to do a lot of rambling, so being concise and succinct is a goal of mine. But let's get straight to the point. Okay, a lot of us, whilst growing up, didn't have the pristine opportunity to develop a healthy ego. Okay, a lot of us come from damaged families, single mother families, maybe abusive fathers who probably weren't even there. In order to navigate this world, one must have an ego. Okay, one must have an ego. The word ego has negative connotations from the get-go. You know, when people say, oh, he's got a big ego, you usually mean to say that he's a narcissist. He's in love with his ego. He's in love with the self. Or rather, the image of the self, because that's what the ego is. The ego is a reflection of the self. It's a reflection of an image that the self is creating and projecting onto itself, onto the body, onto the mind, onto the presence of this being. The ego is simply a way for the self to navigate this world. Think of the self as being this infinite life source, this infinite intelligent life source, the being. Christians will call it the spirit of Christ. Buddhas will call it the Atman, the self, Hindus as well. The self has to navigate the world, and it does that through the mind. Okay, it does that through the mind, it does that through the conceptual reality, and it uses the ego as the way to project itself onto this world as a self in the form reality. Because the thing itself, the Atman, the self, the being behind it, is not a form. It's a formless entity, it's nothingness, and it's everything at the same time. But in order to navigate this world, it has to have a form self. It has to have something concrete, or rather illusory, but it comes across as concrete, to put itself into and to navigate the world. Okay, it's why every human being craves love, friendship, companionship, desire, things like that, things of that nature, things of divine essence. Every human craves these things. Connection, support, love, you know, these things are innate to us. But what tends to happen is, as you're developing as a child, the ego isn't allowed to develop securely and within limits. Okay? Narcissists are people who have fallen in love with their inflated sense of self, the inflated ego. The ego which has created this powerful, impenetrable, immortal being, or immortal self, I should say, which is never wrong, can never do anything wrong, is unstoppable, is all-powerful, deserves everything. No one can stand on its toes, no one can defeat it. It is unstoppable. And most importantly, the being behind it, the human being, has fallen prey to the ego. So now the ego controls it rather than the human controlling the ego. What we want to do as human beings, what our goal should be, is to develop a healthy ego. An ego which serves the human, not the other way around. Okay? An ego which serves us and benefits us rather than we being a slave to it. The ego presents itself in the mental conception of who you are, right? When you think about who you are, you're going to say shit like, I am, let's say I start talking about me, I'm John, I'm from England, I'm 6 foot, I've got brown eyes, I've got a beard, I wear glasses, I'm intelligent, I'm very independent, I'm very assertive, I'm very aggressive when it comes to competition, you know, I always win. That is my ego talking, okay? Those are the egoic forms that the being uses to navigate this world, okay? But in the past, my ego was one of self-hate, okay? Before, my ego would be, I am John, but I am worthless, I am stupid, I am pathetic, I can never achieve anything. That's an egoic form. It's an egoic way to navigate the world, but in this case it's a victim complex, a victim ego, but it's still an ego, because the ego wants to believe in something strong so that it can navigate the world through that lens. It doesn't care really what lens it is. That's what I've realized. I've shifted. I've gone from being the weak ego to the so-called strong ego, and both of them break as easy as the next. Okay, you can have many defense mechanisms to keep the ego going, but at the end of the day, what an ego death is the final understanding that whatever the ego says that's true to you is ultimately an illusion. It's not real. It's simply a mental concept which is created, and it's fueled with emotions and it's fueled through thoughts. When you become aware of the process that dictates this whole thing, i.e. when you look at the thoughts that trigger the emotions, and then you see and witness the behaviors and the demeanor that's then being corresponded to those mental emotional patterns, you begin to realize and you begin to become aware that you're not actually in control, but your mental images, your ego is in control. Your conceptual mind is actually taking the lead in your life and creating your destiny, not you. Okay, that's why people say, you know, why do always bad things happen to me? Well, they don't. It's just your perception of events. And perhaps you're doing similar things on a pattern-to-pattern basis that would lead to similar results in certain situations. You know, like for me, it was with women. I was like, why can't I get women? Well, without me even realizing it, I was being controlled by my emotions, and I wasn't being a man in the traditional sense, in the way of being direct, in the way of going for what I want. When a woman made an advance to me, I would never take it further. And then when they lost interest, I would take it as something being wrong with me personally. I would say, well, obviously there's something wrong with me. No. And I would say, of course, the belief would be, I'm an unattractive man. The egoic defense was, I'm an unattractive man. Therefore, this is what happens to me. This is only what can happen to me. And whilst that's a painful place to live in, it is a painful place, because you're creating suffering for yourself. What happens in turn is your ego stays intact. Your ego, your sense of self remains intact. So the suffering and the pain, in a very cruel, ironic sense, becomes your home. It is what you're used to, and it is your sense of self. Now, when I became aware of this process, I became aware of the mental emotional patterns and the triggers, and I realized why I did certain things in certain situations. And then I realized at the end of it that my sense of self is an entirely illusory concept. And it's not me. I can actually break free from this if I wished. If I desired, I can break free from it. And as practice, I began to become aware of myself, not only in meditation, but in normal situations, in social situations. There's a lot of flies everywhere and they keep touching me. Really annoying. Oh, and I've got itches all over my fucking hands now. Shouldn't have come out today. Oh well, it is what it is. When I became aware of this stuff, I started taking it with me in social situations. I started taking it with me in everyday interactions with people. And I was able to see what my mental emotional triggers were in certain situations, and I was completely 100% aware of how this was a conditioned response. It wasn't me, it was a conditioned egoic response to things, because the ego likes to survive. The ego is a survival mechanism at the end of the day. It's designed to help us navigate the world. It is trying to help you. Okay, it's trying to help you. You know, let's say you're a timid guy. I used to be timid. Okay, let's say you're a timid guy, and when confrontation happens, when conflict happens, you become small. You start to speak softly. You know, avert eye contact. You give off submissive signals to the other person. Okay, that is not who you are. That is simply what worked for you in the past. It's a defense mechanism for your ego to fall back on when it doesn't know what to do, when it feels threatened. That's what's worked for it in the past. Now, of course, as an adult, as a man, you don't want to do that. You want to be as assertive and as strong and as powerful as you possibly want. You will want to stare at the face of death with a smile on your face. So now when confrontation happens with me, I can feel the mental emotional pull to go back into the timid state. I can feel it. It's a very strong feeling. But you know what I do? I'm just simply aware of it and I watch it happen. And as I watch it happen, the awareness allows me to choose what I can do next. You know, you almost get this life hack now where you can choose how you want to respond. You can choose your reaction. And it's not a reaction now, it's a response, because you are carefully and diligently choosing what is appropriate rather than falling back on an emotional mental trigger, which is not who you are. It's just an egoic defense. And likewise, when you're on the other side of the spectrum, when you inflate the ego now too much, let's say, which tends to happen on nofap, mind you. When you're on nofap and semen retention, your ego tends to become quite inflated because you get this newfound power of masculinity, raw, instinctual masculinity, and you don't really know what to do with it. So what your ego tries to do, your ego will try to make a new sense of self out of it now. Okay, and it will do that. It will do it, and you're going to have to deal with that, because you're going to have big expectations from the world when you achieve this newfound sense of self, and you're going to get disappointed. Okay, you're going to get disappointed because at the end of the day, you are now developing a healthy ego through nofap. That's the point of this video. You are developing a healthy ego because whilst before you might have had a deflated sense of self, a deflated ego, now you're going to suffer, and I use the word suffer for a reason. You're going to suffer through an inflated ego, and that ego is eventually going to die. Whether it be through you or an external event, it is going to die. Your sense of self, your inflated sense of self, your narcissistic ego, is going to fall back. It's going to die at some point. Could be this year, could be next year, could be in the next 10 years, I don't know. But it's going to happen eventually. Because the world isn't going to meet your expectations, okay? Let's say you found this new sense of self and you feel that you can get any chick, okay? Which is good confidence, don't get me wrong. But it is an unrealistic expectation. You are not going to get every chick. Not every chick's going to like you. I don't care how attractive you are, how masculine you are, how good your posture is, all that crap. You are not going to get every chick. It's just not going to happen. You're going to ask 100 chicks out and it may very well be the case that all of them say no. Okay? That doesn't mean you're unattractive. It just simply means that not every chick is going to like you. When you're on nofap, your chances of finding a woman who is of your caliber, who really digs you and respects you, really likes you for your demeanor and your attractive qualities, which are going to be intensified when you're on nofap. Okay, nofap doesn't make you attractive, it just simply intensifies what's already attractive about you. That's the beauty of it, because there's something attractive about everyone. I'm not the guy who says that there's fundamentally unattractive people out there. If there's a fundamentally unattractive person, it's because they're hiding something. They're hiding something about themselves and they don't like it, and therefore when you repress one thing, you repress everything else, and you are now showing a polished version of yourself to the world, and most likely the polished version isn't going to be a very nice version. Yeah, back when I was in my fapping days, the version I presented to the world was an introverted dickhead, essentially. I've spoken about this before. An introverted arsehole. Yeah, wasn't a very sociable person, wasn't a nice person to have a conversation with, didn't really relate to other people, although I knew how to, I just didn't feel like I wanted to. Because I wasn't using my gifts and my talents and my charisma in the right way. So nofap simply intensifies it. And you're going to see the benefits of that. You're going to see the world respond to you differently because you've never seen it respond this way to you before, right? So it comes across as a superpower to you, even though you are just being yourself now, truly. And you're going to now develop a new sense of self. You're going to develop a healthier sense of self. And if you're anything like me and you're experiencing the benefits of NoFap like I have, which mind you are not like it's not crazy shit. Don't have massive expectations. Just expect to feel good about yourself. Just expect to have great interactions with people. Not 100% of the time, but just expect it to happen the majority of the time. Expect to be smiling a lot more. Expect to be looking in the mirror and feeling good about yourself. Expect to have a lot more confidence in what you can achieve and do now in the world. Expect to be a lot more funnier, a lot more charismatic. And if you're really fucking about that shit, expect your interactions and response from women to be more better than before. Okay, again, it doesn't mean that every woman's gonna sleep with you and you're gonna have them doing cartwheels down the street to try and get your attention. No, that's not gonna ever happen. But what's gonna happen is you're gonna see a larger amount of women find you attractive, because now you are embodying your attractive nature, and your interactions with women are going to be a tad bit more positive. They're going to respond to you a little bit better. They're going to be smiling and flirting a lot more. These are the women who are obviously attracted to you, which is not going to be every girl, but you are going to see more of that happen now. Okay, that is the so-called superpower. You are just simply being a man now, and you have a healthy sense of self, and you are projecting that healthy sense of self to the world now, and the world responds to that in a very positive way because it likes people who know what they're doing. Okay, at the end of the day, women are there as cheerleaders for men. They're there to push us to do great things. They reward us with children. But before we do that, we have to accomplish great things. Women are there as your natural supporters. Okay? They're there to help you achieve things. Alright? If a woman leaves you, most likely it's because you weren't doing the right thing for yourself. You weren't doing anything, man. I'm sorry to say that. If a woman leaves you, she cheats on you or does anything, it's because you weren't dedicated to your purpose. You weren't doing what you needed to be doing. It's as simple as that, man. It's as simple as that. And it's hard to hear that, especially when you're going through it, but I've been through it. You know, I've had a girl lose interest in me before, and it was simply due to the fact that I was putting her above my purpose. I became complacent with the girl, and I lost it. Simple as that. Okay, but I learn, and you live and you learn, and you know what you should do next time. Now, about the ego crush, it's going to happen to you. You're going to experience it. When that ego then crushes, you are not going to have a narcissistic ego. You are going to have a healthy ego, which is going to be adaptable to the world. You're not going to have unrealistic expectations. You're not going to have a timid sense of self. You're going to have a healthy sense of self, a healthy self-esteem. All right? When you go through your 20s, you go through either or. You go through a bad self-esteem and bad self-image, or you go through an overinflated self-image. The end goal is to develop a healthy balance between the two and reach the contentness of it all. There's a great book called The King Within by Robert Greene. Is it Robert Greene? I don't know. I'm going to have to check that out. But it's called The King Within. And in the book he says that there's 3 egos when it comes to the king archetype, or the masculine archetype. Okay, you've got the king, which is the ultimate. You've got the weakling, and then you've got the tyrant. And it's a bit similar to what I'm talking about here. The masculine ego either is the weakling, the timid, the nice guy, the pussy ego, or it's the tyrant, the narcissist, the person who expects uncomplacent obedience. Is that the right word? Uncomplacent? I don't think so. Unconditional obedience from everyone. That's the tyrant, that's the narcissist. And usually you fluctuate between the two throughout your life. You go to the weakling, then you go to the tyrant, you go to the weakling, then the tyrant. And eventually when you go through those 2 egos enough times in your life, you're going to reach a place of equilibrium by the time you're around 30, 40, could be even 50, where you finally settle in to the king archetype, to the king ego, the ego of the king, which is a healthy balance between the tyrant and the weakling, the coward and the... What do you call the tyrant? You just call them the coward and the tyrant, the weakling and the tyrant, it's the same thing. So yeah, that's the goal of this whole NoFap thing for me as well, is to find the healthy ego, which I did not develop as a child, and I certainly didn't develop it during teenager years. But now is a new chance. Like I haven't said this before actually, but NoFap is really a second opportunity at life. It's a second chance. This is your second chance. You know, you wasted the first chance by splurting it away, quite literally. You've now been given a second chance, and you're now going to learn everything again in a new perspective because you have a new ego now. The ego is going to be inflated, and prepare for its crash. It's going to happen, and the crash is going to be pretty brutal. Well, it's not going to be as brutal as the ones that came before, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult to deal with. I have not experienced the crash yet. I'm still in the process of living the high life of this ego, okay? The ego of the narcissist is still pretty strong in me, but I'm trying to keep it in check with meditation. I'm trying to keep it in check. I'm trying to make sure that it doesn't get too out of control, because if it does, I'm going to then lose control and I'm going to become a tyrant. Okay, the tyrant is within all of us, and overconfidence, narcissism is a very real possibility when you're on this journey. Okay, especially if like, this is what's really weird is if you're already an attractive guy and you then get on NoFap, the world's going to respond to you differently, because before you were attractive but you didn't know it. Okay, so you carried yourself like you weren't attractive, and the world first looked at you like, oh, this guy's attractive, and then you spoke, and then you showed that you don't know that. So then the world was like, oh, he doesn't know, okay, we can treat him like shit. That's how the egos work. It's really funny, because everyone thinks that everyone's ego essentially believes that it's a little person in the head that's just watching everything, controlling this body like a robot. And it's not really you, it's just an ego that's pretending to be you. So every ego is a liar and a manipulator and an exploiter. Essentially, that's what it is. It's a liar. But when you get on NoFap, you begin to develop a healthy sense of ego, which is more authentic and more real with people. And other people can see that and they can respect that. But when you're on NoFap and you are already an attractive person, and now you carry yourself like an attractive person, holy fucking shit, the world's going to respond to you massively different. Women are going to respond to you differently, because they're going to see you as attractive, and then they're going to say, oh, this guy knows he's attractive. And that's confidence right there. They're going to love it. Guys are going to see it. They're going to be like, oh shit, this guy is the real deal and he's carrying himself like one. Fuck, we better not mess with him. You know, that's a lot of people say, why do guys find me intimidating? You know, I've seen Reddit posts. I've seen posts about why women find you attractive and why men find you intimidated / respectful. And it's the same thing. It's like before you were a man, you didn't know it though, so you carried yourself like a pussy. Now you are embodying the manliness, and the world is seeing it, and they don't know how to respond to it, because there's not many people who know how to carry themselves like that. Yeah, that's why you stand out. You really, really do stand out as a 1%er. So you're like a celebrity. You're actually like a fucking celebrity. So anyway, the video's gone on for long enough. 23 bloody minutes. Wow. But yeah. To sum shit up, we're doing this to find a healthy ego. I'm going to go into this in the future with a little bit more philosophical terminology, because I believe today I was just talking from the heart. I wasn't really using philosophical concepts, but in the future I'm going to talk about a little bit more about philosophical concepts and be just a bit more precise in my speech, because right now I'm literally just rambling. But I hope you enjoyed the video anyway, and I hope you found wisdom and knowledge in it. And do leave your comments below on what you think about the whole subject, what you think about the ego, the sense of self, and your personal experiences with ego inflation / deflation. This has been John. Hope you are having a good day, and I will see you in the next one.